Hello, designers. This is Dr. Shantae Bishop, CEO of Design Her Label, where I help diverse women entrepreneurs turn their creative genius into bankable branding strategies. And on today's brandcast, we are going to be talking about strategies for filling the room, strategies for filling our events. Let me tell you, event hosting can be a very stressful endeavor because you have invested a lot of time, a lot of planning, a lot of money in many cases. And in order for you to get a return on your investment or in order for you to profit, the process of making all of that happen can be incredibly stressful because as the date grows closer and closer and the ticket sales aren't moving the way that you need them to move, it can create a ton of anxiety. So I want to help try to relieve some of that anxiety today because summer is coming. Many of you have things on the horizon, breakfasts and brunches, lunches, rooftop parties, launches, and those types of things. And so I want to make sure that I give you some tips in this brandcast in order to make sure that you're successful in that endeavor. So the worst thing that can happen when it comes to an event are the crickets. These are those empty chirps in the woods, in the forest that basically indicate nobody's listening, nobody's there, and that's the worst feeling. What you want to go for are the bees. You want people to be buzzing. You want people to be knocking at the door, camping out outside in order to get into your event. So here are a couple of ways to create that buzz. One of the first things that you want to keep in mind with your event is that your event needs to have some social swag. And what do I mean by that? Social swag is like Apple. People are not standing outside in the cold, in the dead of winter, overnight in tents in order to get a phone because Apple has become very innovative in showcasing that this isn't just a phone, this is the phone. So in order for you to create buzz and in order for your event to have social swag, ask yourselves, why is this the event to be at? Why is it the time? Why is it this brunch and not that brunch? Why is it this year and not last year? And what ways makes it distinctive from anything else that's been done? What's innovative? What makes it one of those things where if you were not there, you completely missed it because it won't be repeated again. This is the time to do it. So you want to make sure that your event has some social swag, something that people will be able to say, oh, I got one of these, or I was there, or see, by going to this event, I was able to walk away with this something that nobody else is going to have. So that's what I mean by social swag. Another thing that you want to consider is make sure that it is either trendy or timely. So for example, if holidays are coming up like Mother's Day or Valentine's Day, and those are the types of things that people are already thinking about, that really helps you because since those holidays and those events are already on people's minds, they're going to be looking for things. They're going to be looking for you. They're going to be looking for your event. So for example, I know a fellow entrepreneur, her and her husband, they hosted a Valentine's Day dinner. And when they first talked about it, first launched it, I think that they started opening up the ticket sales like in December. But you know, it was right after Christmas and then there was New Year's. But then the closer it got to February, all of a sudden people were like, well, what are we going to do on Valentine's Day? And her event sold out to the point where she had to ask the restaurant for greater capacity to see if they could accommodate more people. They had a waiting list. And so it's that type of thing that sometimes events don't happen well because they're not timed properly, because they're not timed when people are thinking about what you're offering. So if you can time your event towards an event or a holiday that somebody's already thinking about, then it's more likely to fill up. So for example, if the Super Bowl is coming up and you're thinking about having something about a Super Bowl party or something sports related or theme related where you really want to fill the room, then time it close to the Super Bowl time or time it close to, the draft of something. Another thing to keep in mind with regard to filling your events is the emotional component. If you can make people care about it, they're more likely to come. So one of the things that I've actually been really impressed by, and I'm going to try not to cry like as I think about it and talk about it, is the hashtag Bring Back Our Girls. And so if you haven't heard about this, this is 200 Nigerian girls who were abducted from their families, abducted from their school by a terrorist group and forced to marry extremists, okay? So they were abused, they've been sexually abused, and it has gained worldwide attention. Like, it's been all over social media. Just use the hashtag #BringBackOurGirls. And just recently I found out that the United States is actually going to send a team over there to help in the rescue and the search efforts for these young girls. And so the thing is that that's emotional. That is a trigger. People care about that because even though it's happening in a completely different country, as one human to another, as a mother to another mother, as just a family, if you have children, those are things that are emotional and people care about them. And so change.org started an online petition, and within hours they had hundreds of thousands of names on the petition so that they could implore governments to help in the support of rescuing these young ladies. And so as far as your events are concerned, how can you make people care about what it is that you are trying to do at this event? You might want to use video. You might want to tell a story. You might want to look at campaigns like on Kickstarter, where people are trying to raise money and crowdfund. If you go to Kickstarter.com and you look at some of those stories, listen to some of the ways that people are engaging the audience so that people will donate money. So if you can create an emotional component, then you're more likely to fill your event. Another thing to keep in mind is make sure that it is something that's publicly supported. And so by publicly supported, it's one of those things where if everywhere you go, you see people supporting this event, or everywhere you go, you see this hashtag, or everywhere you go on Twitter, on Facebook, you see it all over the place. Something that went viral actually, it wasn't that long ago. There was this little boy. So if you've seen this little boy, he's probably 3 years old. He's a Latino little boy, and he's having an argument with his mom about cupcakes. And he's like, Linda, 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 listen to me, honey, honey. And the thing is that it was publicly supported in the sense that even though people felt like, this little boy was out of line for having this kind of conversation with his mother, it's one of those things where you haven't seen it yet, or did you see that little boy, or oh my gosh, you have to see this. And so it was one of those things that people couldn't ignore because everywhere they turned, they saw it. And so this is where leveraging social media really becomes a critical strategy, because if people that have a large following are publicly supporting your event, then it means that everywhere that people turn in your target market, they're likely to find what it is that you're doing, to the point where it's like, okay, I've seen this 3 times already, so let me click and find out what it's actually going to be about. So that's what I mean by publicly supported. So those 4 strategies right there: some social swag, making sure it's trendy and timely, like with events and holidays, having an emotional connection to it, and making sure that it's publicly supported so that no matter where you turn, people are talking about your event. So something else to keep in mind is asking yourself, what is the purpose of this event? So you have to be very clear on why you're doing this. So what outcomes does the event fulfill? Is it to make money? Is it a fundraiser? Is it to get exposure for your brand? Is it so that you can attract donors and sponsors to your organization? Is it a joint venture project where you're partnering with somebody else who's hosting the event? Is it to create partnerships? Are you trying to create new clients? So make sure that before you even start promoting it, that you're very clear on what the purpose is. Because if you're asking people to invest, that's a fair question. They're going to say, okay, well, what is this for? And you want to make sure that you have a ready answer for them when they ask that question. Another thing you want to keep in mind is price point and timeline. So the bigger the price point, the more time you need to plan. So for example, if your event is $1,000, it can't be in 2 weeks unless you are targeting a very high-end client. But if you're targeting, middle-class Americans, then most people just don't have $1,000 to fork over in 2 weeks, or $1,000 that they can sacrifice, out of their paycheck. So you want to make sure that the bigger the price point, that the more you give people time to plan for that investment. Another thing that you want to consider is what can be donated. And so in terms of saving yourself cost, you might want to consider what space can be donated. You might know somebody in the park district. You might know someone at a school. You might have a friend who owns a restaurant or a boutique. So ask what kind of space can be donated for your event. What services can be donated? So sometimes people are willing to avail their services. When I was at my conference in Oklahoma back in March, the makeup artists who did our makeup, they volunteered that time because they just supported the cause. And so they volunteered their services. Are there products, are there gifts, or are there giveaways? And this is part of the social swag strategy, so that if you have things that can be given away, things that can only be exclusively gotten by attending your event, then that helps to generate some attendees who want to come and support what you're doing. Another thing that you want to keep in mind with the budget, pricing, and value is to use affiliates. So in other words, find people who cater to your target market and just approach them like a business partnership and say, hey, I'm having this event. I need 50 people in the room. I need 500 people in the room. So here's what I'm going to do. In exchange for you sending me 5 people, I will give you something in exchange. So it can be money, it can be a free ticket to the event, it can be an endorsement for their next event, it can be being a support person at their upcoming event. But whatever it is, find some affiliates that you can use who are really going to recruit and actively promote this for you. And they can do this by having a special web link. You can set up an affiliate link for them so that every time someone clicks on that link, that person gets credit for it. There's all kinds of ways to leverage affiliates, but make sure that you're not the only person doing the marketing for it. You can also consider offering early bird pricing. That tends to be very effective because people hate to overpay when they know that they could have gotten something for a smaller price or a lesser discount. And you can also offer tiered pricing. So remember I said earlier, if your event is $1,000, most people just don't have that to fork over out of pocket. And so you might want to offer a certain amount down and then space out the payment so that it's a lot more accessible for people to actually come and budget for it. You also want to make sure that you trend your event on social media. So do some hashtag searching and make sure that it's a hashtag that's going to be unique to you and unique to your event. And this is also where you go back to leveraging the affiliates and make sure that the affiliates are very clear on what you need them to do on social media. So what you do is you can create a tweet for them, you can create a Facebook post for them and say, use this tweet or use this Facebook post, and I want it posted at these times and at that day and under these parameters or while this show is going on. Make sure that you're very clear on what you want the social media strategy to be with your affiliates, and so that when people are looking at this hashtag and they click on it, they say, wow, everybody is using this hashtag. What is this event about? And make sure that there's a link that goes directly to your event so that people can learn more about it and buy tickets. They say on average, it takes about 7 times for someone to see something before they actually will pay attention and invest. So don't think just because you put it out there one time that it's going to be seen. Sometimes you have to put it out there 10 times, 20 times in order for it to be seen. And having an affiliate partnership with people can really help to broaden your reach on social media. Last but certainly not least, you also want to leverage things like autoresponders. And so if you have an email marketing list, you can use companies like Infusionsoft or Aweber or MailChimp and actually schedule emails to go out reminding people about the event. Because sometimes people have really good intentions and they're like, oh, I want to do that, or I should go to that, or let me call so-and-so and see if they want to go. But you know, life happens, the day got busy, the kids got sick, and they just forgot about it. And so these autoresponders can schedule things out 3 to 5 days, 7 days, 10 days, and remind people that there's still an opportunity to take advantage of enrolling in your event or coming to your event or investing at a certain price. So as always, if you enjoyed this post, please do share it. I encourage you to have your peeps subscribe to Design Her Label. And you can find me as always on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And if you haven't seen it yet, check out the premiere episode of Design Her TV on YouTube. Thanks so much. I'll see you guys next time.